ladies and gentlemen, Kitty Worthman.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your great state of New Jersey. I was born in Austria, and I lived there 7 years under Hitler's brutal regime. And after World War II, 3 years under Soviet communist occupation. In 1938, the media reported that Hitler rode into Austria with tanks and guns and took us over. Not true at all. The Austrian people elected Hitler by 98% of the vote by means of the ballot box. Now, you might ask, how could a Christian nation, almost 100% Catholic, to elect a monster like Hitler? The truth is, at the beginning, Hitler didn't look like or talk like a monster at all. He talked like an American politician.
It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
In 1938, Austria was in a very deep depression. We had 1/3 of our workforce unemployed. We had 25% inflation. And if you would borrow money from the bank, you pay 25% interest. It was not unusual that my mother would feed, on the average, 30 people a day, a bowl of soup and a slice of bread. People would come knocking on the door. They wanted to work. There were no jobs. The depression was so bad that we had riots in the streets. There were two political factions fighting each other. Communist Party was getting very powerful. So was the Nazi Party. Now, when I speak of the Nazi Party, the Nazi Party, what we are going to be in our country, the National Socialist Party. I translate Nationalsozialism. That's where the word Nazi came from. So we heard Hitler speaking in Germany. Germany had full employment. They had law and order, and we had riots in the street. And in Germany, the people had a high living standard. They all drove the little Volkswagen, the Beetle car, and there was nothing ever said that anybody was being persecuted. So when we had that unbelievable unemployment, and the people were getting so desperate, they petitioned the government for a plebiscite, for an election. And that's when we elected Hitler by 98% of the vote by means of the ballot box. So we got a new government, National Socialism, Nazi government. Of course, we had no idea what that would all be. We just thought we were all going to live a high standard of living like Germany. And Hitler promised us that within weeks we would have full employment.
A couple of weeks ago, House Republican leaders handed out a piece of paper to their members, and on the top of it said, Agenda 2014. I'm not making this up. Below that, it was blank. No, it was a blank sheet of paper. Nothing to create jobs or grow the economy or strengthen the middle class.
And I put forward my plans to create new jobs and even the odds for the middle class, and I've put forward plans that give some Republicans some of the things that they want in exchange for ideas that will create good jobs right now.
And he would feed the poor people. The Red Cross came in. Everybody was being fed. Everybody got something. And we were so grateful for everything. Oh, we thought Hitler was our savior.
First of all, giving honor to God and our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama. Barack Obama. Y'all stand up.
Oh, yes, he was a very good orator. He gave very good speeches, and we heard that here too, haven't we? So, when we got the new government, nobody was elected anymore. Everybody was appointed. From the school board, the county commission, the city commission, to the legislature, and to the governors. And Hitler said, the best people are being appointed. We only pick the best people, and we trusted him. So we had no more elections, none whatsoever. We also had regionalism. Regionalism is to centralize the government. Centralization is socialism. So Hitler said we have to merge our 7 states into 4. That will save money. And we only would have 4 governors. We thought that's a good idea. As a lobbyist in South Dakota, I found a bill 3 times to consolidate our 66 counties into 15. That's centralization. That's socialism. Take away local control. That's socialism. So with our new government, we got a lot of new laws. We got a very, very good law, we thought, the Equal Rights Amendment. Well, equal rights for women. Haven't we heard that here too? So the Equal Rights Amendment had 2 components, economically and socially. Economically, to redistribute the wealth of the country.
What that means then is that as we try to resuscitate this notion that we're all in this thing together, leave nobody behind, we do have to be innovative in thinking what are the delivery systems that are actually effective and meet people where they live. And my suggestion, I guess, would be that the trick, this is one of the few areas where I think there are technical issues that have to be dealt with as opposed to just political issues. I think the trick is figuring out how do we structure government systems that pool resources and hence facilitate some redistribution, because I actually believe in redistribution, at least at a certain level, to make sure that everybody's got a shot.
And then, socially, to get all the women, the moms, out into the workforce, into employment. Oh yes, Hitler got a lot of jobs, political appointments, hundreds and hundreds of bureaucrats, and of course he built the Autobahn, the freeway. So the moms were out into the workforce. What do you think would happen to the children? The government had immediately a remedy, child care centers. So the state raised our children.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
Because of Obama, I'm inspired to be the next architect.
Because of Obama, I'm inspired to be the next engineer.
Because of Obama, I'm inspired to be the next fireman.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Obama speaks on race America. Yes, we can.
And by economically to redistributing the wealth, we had massive massive welfare. Because we had a guaranteed income, the government decreed that everybody has to be equal, have an equal income. Those who worked hard paid 70% taxes, and those who were down here, they were getting the equal income like those who worked hard. That's called socialism.
The fact is, for people in your income bracket and mine, now we both come from humble beginnings, and we were talking before the show, of the fact that only in America could we have this success.
Absolutely.
And I am not somebody who begrudges that success. I want people with
But you
good
want
ideas.
50% of my success?
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
That's your tax rate.
That is not
50.
true.
I'm paying 50 if you get elected.
What I have said is that I would take your marginal rate back to what it was under Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
Right now it's
39.
36. You go back to 39.
Right.
You can afford that. That's point number one.
You're taking the wealthy in America and the big earners, okay? You're taking money away from them, and you're giving it to people who don't. That's called income redistribution. It's a socialist tenet.
Bill,
come on, you know that. You went to Harvard.
Teddy Roosevelt supported a progressive income tax. Look.
Not at the level you do.
Bill, I don't like paying taxes. What, you think I like writing a check? What I believe is that there's certain things we've got to do, and we've got to help people who are having a tough time affording college so they can benefit like we benefited from this great country, people who are having a tough time, they don't have health care, people who are trying to figure out how they are going to pay the bills.
Socialism. Also, education was nationalized very quickly, literally overnight. I was 12 years old. I was in 6th grade. I walked into my classroom. I went to public school. We had an excellent school system. We prayed in public school, and we also had religious education twice a week. That all stopped overnight. I walked into my classroom March 13, 1938. The crucifix was gone, and there was Hitler's picture with the Nazi flag on each side, and our teacher said, "Today we don't pray anymore. We sing Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, the national anthem." And she said, "We don't have religious education anymore either. We have physical education instead."
We're gonna spread happiness. We're gonna spread freedom. Obama's gonna change it. Obama's gonna lead 'em. We're gonna change it and rearrange it. We're gonna change the world. Now's the moment where each voice to sing. Sing with all your heart. For our children, for our families, nations all join as one. Sing for joy and sing abundant peace. Courage, justice, hope. Sing together, hold each precious hand, lifting each other up. Sing for vision, sing for unity, lifting our hearts to sing.
And on Sundays, there would be National Youth Day, and that would be compulsory. Everybody had to attend. And if our parents wouldn't send us the first time, they would get a very stiff letter of warning. Second time, they would have to pay a fine of the equivalent of $300. And the third time we didn't attend was jail for our parents. Well, we couldn't go to church anymore. The first 2 hours we had political education. Today, I call it political indoctrination. We were being told not to listen to our parents. They were old-fashioned old fogies, didn't understand the youth. Only Hitler did. So we were being totally indoctrinated. And the rest of the day we had sports. We got all the equipment free. We got tennis rackets. We got golf clubs. And the boys of age 16, they got motorcycles so they could form a motorcycle squad. Not only that, they were taken out to the airfield to fly gliders. You can imagine that at the end of the day we went back home and told our parents how wonderful Hitler was, what he was doing for us, and how great everything was. And of course, we all were compulsory, had to attend the Hitler Youth, that was compulsory. We argued with our parents all the time. We said, look, you don't know anything, you are old-fashioned, you don't understand us. They put a wedge between us and our parents. So my good mother, when my next school term came around, she announced that she would take me out of this horrible public school. She would enroll me in a private school with an excellent curriculum, but no fun. And I thought, this is terrible. But she packed me off, and as we arrived at that big school with an 8-foot wall around and a locked iron gate, I bid my mother goodbye. I almost hated her. She was a wise woman. She said, someday when you grow up, you will realize what I'm doing for you. Needless to say, if my mother wouldn't have not done that, today I would be a radical Marxist. On holidays, I would go back home and visit my friends. I did not like what I saw. Girls of age 16 were pregnant to have babies for Hitler. Oh, Hitler wanted lots of babies. He knew what he all had in mind. And all this, the lifestyle was very, very, very loose, I did not like. So that was the educational system. It was literally, education was nationalized. Hitler also gave us free radios. And then he nationalized our radio station. And we were told that if you listen to a foreign radio station, there's capital punishment. You don't turn on Switzerland or BBC. We only had one voice, the government. They ran the radio station. The newspaper was being censored before it hit the street. Hitler also looted the Jewish banks, and then he nationalized our banks. Then he nationalized our only car industry. Austria produced a little car, a little bit bigger than a Fiat. Hitler said, we don't need a Fiat. We have the Volkswagen. So everything was being nationalized. He also nationalized our healthcare system. We had, before Hitler, an excellent healthcare system, privately insured. We had good doctors. We had good hospitals. We had a lot of good research. That all stopped.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. And you can keep your plan if you are satisfied with it. If you like the plan you have, you can keep it. If you like your plan and you like your doctor, you won't have to do a thing. You keep your plan. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. If you've got health insurance, you can keep it. If you like your health care plan, you will keep your plan. If you've got health insurance, you like your doctor, you like your plan, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan. If you have insurance that you like, then you will be able to keep that insurance. If you like your doctor or health care plan, you can keep it. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan.
Mr. Speaker, if you're at home and you were sort of flipping channels between the football games and C-SPAN, and you flipped on and only heard the majority party, you'd think, wow, what a great plan. I mean, really. You'd think people are just going to fall all over themselves, and all these adjectives and declarative statements, it just sounds wonderful, until you look inside that bill, and you find handcuffs. Now, I'm not talking about figurative handcuffs. I'm talking about criminal penalties. Criminal penalties that have been mentioned by the gentleman from Texas, criminal penalties that have been mentioned time and again on this floor. We've heard from the best and the brightest all afternoon, and not a one of them have answered why it is you have to criminalize people to coax them into a plan that's fabulous. It makes no sense.
It was free for everybody. Now, I remember my brother-in-law was a family physician. He told me that when he would go to his office in the morning at 8 o'clock, 40 patients were waiting for him to be cared for. People went to the doctor for everything and anything. And my brother-in-law said it was like practicing medicine on a conveyor belt. He could not take enough time for each patient because he was totally government controlled. The government took away free enterprise, salaried the doctors and the hospitals, and many, many doctors left the country because if you would need elective surgery, not emergency, you waited 18 months for a hospital bed. So many doctors left the country, including my own husband.
This is a Fox News alert. There is a bombshell new report out on the consequences of the healthcare overhaul. A brand new study finding that 74% of the doctors surveyed, and there were at least 2,400 of them, 2,700 I think, and 2,400, at leleast 2,400% or 74% of them plan on either retiring, going to work just part-time, or quitting medicine altogether after the health care law takes effect. Dr. Mark Siegel is part of our Fox News Medical A-team, and he's my guest now. Doc, the survey says that there are two things. It's the market and the so-called post-reform era, the health care law they cite in particular. You've been predicting that there would be a mass exodus of physicians in the wake of this. Why? Why would they leave the practice altogether?
By the way, Megan, when the president said you get to keep your doctor, I said, hey, that's me. No one asked me. No one asked doctors whether they're going to be able to see these patients. First of all, over 60% said they're already full. They don't have room for more patients. Almost 70% said they don't like the health reform bill. 87% said they can't see any more Medicare patients, and over 90% said they're not going to see more Medicaid patients.
He would not want to practice medicine like his brother had to. And when he came to the United States, he marveled how wonderful our health care is, how wonderful our research is, and how wonderful our hospitals, how modern they were. He said, I hope it never will end up in socialized medicine. Also, we had many government agencies, you know, the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats were writing all the rules and all the regulation. That's socialism. The unelected bureaucrats, and a lot of it applied to the farmers. The bureaucrats would go out on the farm and measure their land, told the farmers what to plant and how much he had to harvest. They also counted their livestock, how much they had to, since our food was being rationed, had to turn into the government. God help every farmer if they butchered the pig for themselves. He sure would go to jail. They also sent out the bureaucrats to count the chickens and ordered the chickens how many eggs they had to lay. That's socialism. Hitler wrote a book, My Struggle, Mein Kampf. But very few people read it. Had we read it, we would have known what was coming. But the people were so busy with sports. That was everything. Athletic events were everything. But people did not read. They did not read his book. We also had abortions, of course, were highly illegal. Hitler wanted a lot of babies. But if both parents were not 100% Aryan, you know the master race, the mother, if she was pregnant, she was selected to have an abortion. Can you imagine to force you to have an abortion? That was absolutely horrible. We also had euthanasia. And I was an eyewitness to that. In my last year of college, I was sent to a small village in the Austrian Alps. You know, that village was very isolated by mountains, and in the wintertime, the mountain passes were closed because of snow. And in that village, the people would intermarry. And we know by genetics that a lot of offsprings were mentally handicapped. And in that village, there were 15 of them. One I know very well, Vincent, our janitor. He could not speak very well. He could not read and write. But all these people, they did good manual work. So one day, the health department came to the families and asked them if they would want to send their son or daughter to an institution to learn how to read and write and maybe learn a trade like basket weaving. Gladly the parents signed the papers. Off they went. I remember that morning I looked out of my classroom window and I saw Vincent and all these people going into the health department van, and they were taken away. And I thought they were going for an outing, but I asked my principal, and he said, no, they're going into an institution to learn how to read and write. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. 6 months passed. The letters came back to the parents that they died a natural but merciful death. They all were in excellent health, and they left. Why should they die within 6 months? It dawned on us, and the news traveled very fast in the village that they were being euthanized. We also had a federal police force, commonly known as the Gestapo.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well-funded.
And they were everywhere, everywhere, in civilian clothes. You didn't know who they were. But it wasn't like this, since our food was all rationed. And somebody in your family passed away, like grandma. So you quickly took that coveted pound of sugar and went to the grocery store and got that pound of sugar. And then the next day the Gestapo would knock on your door and they said, we know you bought that pound of sugar instead of turning in the coupon by law, but you have to inform on your neighbor, your boss, your friends, everybody you know. And you come to our office once a week. But if you don't do that, then we will arrest you. That way they had a network of informers. We didn't trust the mailman. We couldn't trust anybody who came to our house. And when we talked something political in our family, we only whispered. So that was the informants, the Gestapo, and they were everybody. And we were deadly scared of the Gestapo because people disappeared all the time. We also had gun registration. Oh, the Austrian people they all had guns. But the government said the guns are very dangerous. Children are playing with guns, hunting accidents happen, and we really have to have total control, safety. And we had criminals again. And the only way that we can trace the criminal was by the serial number of the gun.
The fact that we do not have a firm enough background check system is something that makes us more vulnerable to these kinds of mass shootings. And you know, I do get concerned that this becomes a ritual that we go through every 3-4 months, where we have these horrific mass shootings, and yet we're not willing to take some basic actions that we know can make a difference.
So we dutifully went to the police station and we registered our guns. Not long after, they said, no, it didn't help. The only way that we don't have accidents and crimes, you bring the guns to the police station, and then we don't have any crimes anymore and any accidents. And if you don't do that, capital punishment. So that's what we did. Hitler also nationalized our churches. He said those beautiful cathedrals need a lot of upkeep and restoration, and there's not enough money coming in by private donation on Sunday. So we have to have a church tax. So when they pay their income tax, you pay 2% church tax. That way, Hitler could control the churches. No pastor could speak out anymore. So dictatorship didn't happen overnight. It took 5 years, gradually, little by little, to escalate up to a dictatorship. And of course, with the Gestapo, and I also should relate to you, it was probably last year in February in 2009, I drove to the Capitol one morning as a lobbyist, turned on the radio, and I heard President Obama say, anybody who is criticizing him, report it to the White House, the snitch program. So be careful what you say. Our borders were being closed. Nobody could get in and nobody could get out. We were sitting ducks. That's what happened to us. Also, I had the opportunity in November 1985 to go to Switzerland to the summit conference between President Reagan and Premier Gorbachev. I was to accommodate the American women who went over there to support President Reagan. My other mission was to infiltrate the Communist Peace March. And I came in disguise as a horrible-looking hippie. I marched with Bella Abzug, the congresswoman, the late congresswoman, Jesse Jackson, and Barbara Boxer. And as we arrived at the Hotel Hilton for the press conference, I saw a group of people there who were not at the Peace March. And I walked up to a woman and I said, how come you were not at the Peace March? And she said, well, we are all members of the German Communist Party, and we couldn't get legally into Switzerland, so we were over the mountains. Hence, all their muddy boots and torn jackets. So I said, well, tell me more about what is the occasion, what you are doing here. Well, first of all, she said, we are supporting Premier Gorbachev. And I said, well, that's also interesting. Tell me more. What are your real goals? So she said, well, right now we take Nicaragua and Honduras, then we go into Mexico. And I said, why Mexico, such a poor, corrupt country? She said, that is our major goal. I said, why? To take back the territory what America stole from us. California, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas. And I said, look, you cannot do this. You need a lot of people. It sounds to me like a revolution. She said, you American are so naive. Your churches are doing the work for us. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, the sanctuary movement. There are a lot of churches who are bringing in the illegals. So I said to her, tell me, when is this event supposed to happen? She said, that all depends who your president is. Maybe 2004, but most possible 2008. Who is our president? And look what's happening at the border.
I have a truck full of Mexicans, a truck full of Chinese, and a truck full of Islamic terrorists. What truck do you not want entering the United States?
Chinese.
Do you think President Obama believes that there are Chinese coming over the border through Mexico?
I don't know. I'm not certain, and that is where we may disagree. I'm not certain how much we have to fear Chinese coming across the border.
In this part of the world, we don't have a lot of tourist attractions, but this is one of them. This is an emergency distress beacon. And most people find it curious that it's in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Chinese. And since the last time we were out here, they've even been so nice as to add a 5-gallon bucket of water, courtesy of the United States government. This has been here at least a couple of years. They put it here for a specific reason, because this is the point that they travel quite a bit. There are 8 of them along the Texas border.
I have a question for you. Why do you think that sign should be down along the border in Texas? Written in English, written in Spanish, and in Chinese. The government made that, Congressman.
Our government?
Yes. I mean, you've been in Congress for 22 years, right?
Right.
Okay. Has anybody ever showed you that picture before?
No.
Nobody's ever.
No.
Nobody's
No.
ever gone to one of your hearings and said, "Look at this picture."
No.
No. Marketing 101. Make your advertisements to the people who are going to read them.
We know they're coming in here. We caught a hodgepodge group back out here, 16. Had 2 Asian girls, Chinese. They both spoke English. And both of them paid $50,000 each to come in here. Okay. Oh, yeah. Then we had, and in that same group, we had at least 3 or 4 Indians and a couple of Pakistanis. I think there was 1 Mexican in the group. That was it.
Am I wrong in saying that the president's #1 job is to keep Americans safe?
Yeah, everything else is secondary to that. Clearly, it's not even that it's the main, it's almost, to me, it's a #1, 2, and 3. Everything else, no matter how important anything else is, health, education, none of that matters if we're dead.
How would you describe President Obama's attitude toward the war on terror?
I would say it's very schizophrenic, damaging, and it's been very frustrating.
So, Congressman, what you're saying is that the #1 job of the President of the United States is being handled in a schizophrenic manner.
Yeah.
So in the months ahead, I will continue to engage Congress to ensure not only that our targeting, detention, and prosecution of terrorists remains consistent with our laws and system of checks and balances, but that our efforts are even more transparent to the American people and to the world. We cannot look back years from now and wonder why we did nothing in the face of real threats to our security and our economy.
Shortly after President Obama's State of the Union address, his administration allowed 2,000 of the most dangerous illegal aliens detained in U.S. prisons to be released into the general public. The White House blamed this on looming budget cuts that would not take effect for another 30 days. Janet Napolitano denies any involvement. I sent an email to the Department of Homeland Security in which I asked, if the funding to detain 2,000 criminals was no longer available, why not release Americans whose sentences were coming to a close in the near future? I did not receive a reply. As of April 2013, the whereabouts and names of the released criminals remain classified.
When I saw on television in Los Angeles when they marched. They carried the Mexican flag, and they trampled on the American flag. It dawned on me, they're here. When the people fear the government, that's tyranny. But when the government fears the people, that's you, the Tea Party. That's liberty. Keep your guns, and buy more guns. America is still a Christian nation, no matter what Obama says. I am an optimist. God is still on the throne. Thank you. He did not fail us in Austria when the Americans liberated us, and he will save America.